Hey, well, what is up, everyone? Welcome to episode number 67 of the Faith and Pop Culture Podcast. It is me, your host, Daniel, and I am joined once again, as I always am, by the one, the only Naya Carlson. How are you doing, Naya, on this festive start of the holiday season?
I'm terrific. How are you?
I'm a Christmas guy. I know that's maybe not a huge accomplishment or anything, but I start counting down till Christmas in like May. So I'm
Oh
excited to
no.
I
You
don't
have
listen to
to.
Christmas music early. I have
Okay.
restraint. I just
When do
hopeful,
you
eager
start?
anticipation.
When do you start
We're
listening to
usually
Christmas music?
usually an after Thanksgiving.
Okay.
So I got
Okay. That's
so I
respectable.
have restraint. I
Mm-hmm.
just look forward to enjoying it. So I'm excited for we got my house is all decorated for Christmas and doing my shopping, doing all the fun stuff. Love first Sunday we had the other day at church, Christmas carols, the best thing ever. So I'm feeling good. There's a lot of things to be thankful about. So we were off. Obviously, as some of you guys know, last week we were enjoying Thanksgiving. Uh, Stuffing our bellies and enjoying the week off of the podcast. But the problem is when you take a week off, a lot of culture happens and accumulates, and so we got crazy AI singers, we got big discussions, we got the Pope weighing in. A lot happened in the
Mm-hmm.
last couple weeks. So we are going to sort of wade in and just look at a couple things that I know has stood out to both of us that I think Christians can be engaged in. And I think there's some interesting conversations to be had around some of these sort of stories. And maybe to start off, more of a general, maybe not necessarily specifically as like faith related, but I think it is of importance to Christians and particularly to families as they navigate just sort of the entertainment and the type of entertainment being made, and perhaps the type of entertainment that we wish was being made. So I know, now, why don't you sort of set the stage a little bit for this? Because there's been a lot of conversation. I've seen a lot of articles, and I've been sent some of these articles, and just about like sort of the so-called like rise of PG films, because you have like Wicked for Good, which was PG, although it pushed the bounds a little bit for that, but it was a PG film. You
Go
have
go look at our review first,
yeah,
and you'll see why.
yeah, I think the things got a little spicy, but it was PG, and I mean making a lot of money. Zootopia 2, the most recent one that came out over Thanksgiving, is making just ridiculous amounts of money. A PG film. So it's just, and there's been some other ones this year, some kind of important, notable, like PG rated films that have done really well at the box office. And at the same time, it seems like some other films, higher rated films, maybe aren't performing as well at the box office, which has just led people to sort of question some of that. So, what is sort of some of this conversation? I know you've looked into some of the articles and the conversation, but maybe set the stage a little bit for sort of this kind of this conversation.
Yeah, so as you said, PG rated films have risen in popularity. So the most popular films, I think at least this year and maybe a little bit last year too, have gone from being PG-13 rated to being a PG film. So like you said, that's Wicked, that's Zootopia, that's Inside Out too. And so why is this kind of happening? We're thinking that it's because adults are single adults or adults without kids are no longer going to the theaters simply because, we're kind of lazy and streaming is easier and cheaper. So when we look at the most popular films this year that are PG, like we talked about Wicked, there all seem to be either sequels or adaptations, specifically based on content that Gen Alpha has grown up seeing. So the sequel to Inside Out, the sequel to Wicked, the Minecraft adaptation, and they've been just the largest hits in recent years because Gen Alpha wants to be part of a participatory fandom, which is which is quoted from NPR that quoted an article from Wall Street Journal. There's a whole rabbit hole here. So this all to say, does Hollywood need to adapt and aim more at making family-focused films? And I think you're a little more skeptical
Yeah,
than.
I tend to be. I feel like overall in life, I'm a pretty positive person. I tend to see the bright side of things, but I do tend to be somewhat skeptical, or I question at least some of some of this stuff where you sort of see, I don't know, sort of drawing a narrative base, like a very kind of reactionary of, hey, this movie did well, therefore, and then kind of some broad sweeping about, the viewing habits of the world and where Hollywood needs to go. And I think in some ways, I don't know, I think there's a danger of trying to sort of fit the data into the narrative. Like, we, I think there's a lot of, particularly family audiences or Christian audiences that are, and I don't think without reason, but like are not happy with Hollywood and like a lot of the stuff that gets made, and like almost has a vested interest in like in wanting, like, we want more films that aren't garbage, or that are more wholesome, and see, look, this one did well, therefore, Hollywood needs to just make more films like this that will cater to our needs. And I don't know, I think they're like, obviously you can't deny that like a lot of these films that are PG have done well, and like Minecraft I think is the biggest movie. Like obviously there is unquestionably a market for it. I guess where I push back a little bit is just I feel like a lot of the people making these sort of arguments just are sort of jumping into the conversation without doing a whole lot of just looking an understanding of how the industry works. Because I mean, like PG films have always been successful. Like
Mhm.
if you sort of go back on like the box office websites and just go like year by year, chances are like in the top 5 or 6 movies of the year, like at least 3 of them are going to be PG rated films. Like you
And
have,
PG-13 too is like a newer rating system too. It wasn't
yeah, that hasn't been
like
as, and I think for a while, part of why the PG films are getting more airtime now is like the box office was dominated by superhero films, which were almost all, there's some R-rated ones like Deadpool did real well, but like the most of those were PG-13. And as those have sort of waned in popularity and no longer fill up the top of the box office, I think it has created some space for some of these other films, like these animated PG films, to rise up and kind of fill the gap. But like they've always been popular. Like they've always been, like Despicable Me movie, like a Minions movie is always near the top. Like Inside Out 2 is a massive hit. Inside Out 1 was a massive. Like most of the Pixar movies, at least the early ones, were all massive hits at the top of the box
Mhm.
office. Like Disney, like Moana, like a lot of their animated movies, like Moana 2 made over $1 billion. Like there's always been a market, and I think some of that just makes sense. Like you have a film that's accessible to like all audiences, or you have one that like only 18-year-olds and up can get into the theater for. You're gonna have more people see the you're reaching a broader audience. And I think too, and I was thinking as a parent, like PG movies do well because you sell them in bulk. Like
Mhm.
like a single guy can go see Deadpool on himself. My 10-year-old kid isn't going to go see Zootopia 2 by himself. Like he's going to go at least with me. Chances are he's probably going to go with his brother too and his mom. And it's like we're buying 4 tickets rather than 1 ticket. It's like,
Mhm.
and like I was in the theater for Zootopia 2, and it's just filled with kids and families. And it's like it makes sense that you would make more money based on a movie that people see in bulk. The flip side of that, and this is why I'm maybe more skeptical of like why therefore Hollywood, can't you just see that people want more PG films? Is like, I think what makes them popular and like successful also limits them. Cause like, I think a single adult, they can go to the theater every week if they want, go see a movie. They have some expendable income. They have the free
Mhm.
time. Families tend to be a lot more selective. And I mean, it's when you're buying 4 tickets at a time, 4 or 5 tickets for your family, it's
It's
expensive. Like you don't
expensive.
go every
Very
week.
expensive.
It's like you can't constantly be doling out like over $100 every weekend to go see some dumb new animated film. Like you sort of mark it on your calendar. Okay, this is the one we got to go see. The kids love this movie. Maybe we'll see it. It's their break this week. We'll
Mhm.
go see it. So like, I think we sort of point to the ones that are successful and be like, see, people love these movies. What we don't point to is like the ones that don't make the cut, like that don't sort of win over audiences. Like it's like, okay, families can really only pick about one movie this season. What's it going to be? Is, oh, next year it's probably going to be the Super Mario movie. Like, or when the first one came out, it was the Super Mario movie. That doesn't leave a whole lot of room for other movies that are animated and PG. Like, you sort of got to get out of the way of that because audiences are going to go do that, and which is why you just don't get a lot of these types of movies. Like
Mhm.
it's like there's like a new R-rated horror movie in theaters every single week, perhaps more than one, like often multiple, and yet we get like a 10 notable animated PG films like in the entire year, like if that, like so I don't know. Like I think the for me it's like I think if it was a clear path to like clearly if we just make a bunch of PG movies, we're gonna make a ton of money, and we stop making R-rated and PG-13 and just
Mhm.
cater to audience. Like I think if that was a clear path, Hollywood would have done it. Like, Hollywood wants to make money.
Yeah.
I think the reason even though these movies constantly do well, like the hits do, and we're not necessarily getting any more of them than we've ever got, to me just shows, I think maybe we've sort of tapped out on like we've sort of maxed out the capacity of family audiences, and there's just not room. But I don't know, like, is that overly cynical? Because like as a parent, like I'm happy for there to be films that my kids can go see that I can take them to.
Yeah.
So like I'm pro having wholesome PG films. I just don't know if this is a big movement that like now things are changing. I think this has always been the case, and I don't think there's a whole lot of room to really change it.
I think there's just so many factors too that go into whether a film is popular or not. Like that's including there's a certain amount of luck to whether a film is popular. Like what did I see this weekend? I saw Knives Out 3, and there was it just seemed to be very, very timely because it's focused on, like you were saying, it's Hollywood's starting to come out with more faith-based stuff too, and it was focused on the story of a priest who was very devout, and it was a very faithful representation of Christianity or relationship with Christ, but it wasn't a Christian movie. But when you think about how long it takes to make a movie, like I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I just think that there's so many different factors that go into it that like it's kind of hard for Hollywood to guess what's going to be popular and what's not. And there's already a ton of PG stuff that's out there that's really crappy too. So, or
Well,
that is good and not popular,
yeah,
you
and I think
know?
I think you're speaking to like there's a risk involved with I think with all films, but I think
Mhm.
people don't realize too that like animated films are some of the most expensive movies to make. Like like you can make 10 horror movies for the price of like a Zootopia 2. Like
Mhm.
which just makes if the film hits like Zootopia 2 did, then you're just rolling in money. You're bringing it's a huge hit. If it doesn't hit, if it's like a light year, I think that was sort of a lot of the consternation. Some of these animated movies that didn't hit, it's not like a small indie film or like a horror movie, and it's like, well, that hurts, but I guess we'll make, hopefully next week the movie's good. It's like a movie
Mhm.
like Lightyear doesn't do good at the box office, and like Disney as a company is like rethinking itself and like there's so much money poured into it that there's just such a higher risk to make these movies that especially if you're not sure if it's going to connect with family audiences. And I think that's why you don't see studios always willing to like take the risk on a movie like that to make, well, it could be great, but it could also sink our company by, and they just take longer too. Like animated movies take forever to make.
Mhm.
Zootopia was like
Yeah.
10 years after the first movie. There's just so much involved with it that I don't know. For me, it's like, I think it's good that these movies do well.
Mhm.
And I think it does send a message when these types of movies do well. Obviously, like the rating itself is only part of the story. Like, like I think for a lot of Christians with a movie like Wicked, it's like, are we happy that a PG movie did well, or are we concerned that it was a movie about witches and witchcraft? Like
Yeah.
you sort of have all these. It's like it's
Yeah.
not as simple as just like, well, as long as they make PG movies, then like we'll live in this like safe Christian utopia of entertainment. It's like, well,
Yeah. And as a general rule of thumb too, what I learned in film school
take us to
is
school here.
yes, yes, let me tell you. Is like things go in and out of this fashion all the time. So when you're trying to cater a film to what is hot and popular in culture now, chances are by the time that film is released, that's going to be like last year's news already. And so you need to make, as a filmmaker, you need to make a film that is important to you, that you can resonate with because you will find your audience in a way too. And I know that's not necessarily the best business model, but I mean, I think that gives you a higher chance at making a good film that you actually care about and want to put work into.
Yeah, or even
And
just
then,
speaking to, yeah, even
yeah.
speaking to like bigger themes. Like I know that was sort of the
Hmm.
Pixar with Inside Out too. That was their whole shift of like, okay,
Yeah,
let's speak towards, universal themes that aren't
exactly.
sort of caught up in the wave of like, oh, this is sort of the thing we got to touch on now, and this is so I don't know. I think the whole thing's complicated. I think for me the takeaway is just, I don't know. I think as Christians, don't force the narrative of what we sort of want, and like just because we're sort of cheering against Hollywood sometimes, and we sort of want this to be the case that Hollywood's failing except for the films that we feel comfortable going to see. I don't know. I think there's more to it
Hmm.
than that. And honestly, like, I don't want Hollywood to just be filled with a bunch of PG films. Like
I don't
I'm
either.
okay with movies that like my 10-year-old kids aren't ready for yet.
Yeah.
Like obviously I don't want to go see a bunch of garbage, but like I don't necessarily. I think as Christians we can sometimes act as though like family films is like the common denominator. Like that's everything needs to be aimed at the family, and it's like, well, not really. I watch
There's
films that
Christians about kids.
yeah, it's like
Yeah.
my favorite movie is Jaws, and like I haven't shown my kids that movie yet. Like I probably won't for a couple years because they're not ready for it. Doesn't mean it's a bad movie. It just means not everything is aimed at a kid, and or should be, and I think that's totally fine. That so I'm in some ways like I want Hollywood to make wholesome stuff that my kids can go see. I just don't want them to only make that. It's like I'm okay
Hmm.
with them all. Like I think we should be okay with PG-13, even R-rated films that we
Yeah.
can see. But speaking of opinions on cinema and what needs to be made, kind of another thing that stood out to me. Again, I'm not Catholic. I'm a Protestant, a Southern Baptist, in fact. But I was really impressed by a speech because there's a lot of people out there that have opinions on the arts and film, but there's only one pope, and so when the pope gives his opinion on films, it's of interest, and he did, and I thought it was fantastic. So he had and he might have more of the specific details. I didn't write it down, but recently he had like uh, an assembly of various like filmmakers and actors and just people within the industry. Kind of had them all come to the Vatican, and I don't know what else they were doing there. Like if it was just that, or if there's other things involved. But
Yeah.
like they gathered. Like I mean, it's like sort of a who's who. Like a lot of not everyone that you would expect was there, but like Scorsese wasn't there or some of those people. But I mean, the people that were there are all people that is like, oh yeah, I know that person. I know that person. Like I know that person. A bunch of big name people were all there, and he gave a speech, kind of about just filmmaking and the role of the church. So I want you to set that up a little bit too, because I know you were looking through some of this uh, transcript, but maybe give like the gist of sort of this speech that he was giving.
Yeah. He was just really wanting to encourage actors and filmmakers to just continue making film and talk about the importance of cinema, saying it's a vehicle to contemplate and understand life and that it sets hope in motion. So he acknowledged that cinema was in decline, but he knows how important and valuable film in society and culture is, not just in the existence of film, but in going to theaters as a whole, as a community activity. He says that film is beautiful and beauty is an invocation. And then he quoted, this is one of my favorite parts. I know you have some banger quotes written down
There
here
were a lot
too.
of banger quotes in this speech, but you give your banger quote first.
Yes. Well, it's not even his quote. He quoted Pope St. Paul VI, who said, if you're friends of genuine art, and you are our friends, this world in which we live needs beauty in order not to sink into despair. And then Pope Leo said, I wish to renew this friendship because cinema is a workshop of hope, a place where people can once again find themselves and their purpose. So I guess, what's your kind of feelings on this whole speech? And a bigger picture question is, what is the role of the church as a whole in art and in film in particular?
Yeah, and I think this is I don't know, like and we'll link it too because we on our website we have the whole transcript of this
Mhm.
speech, and to me it's just such like an well articulated and I think just rich philosophically, theologically, just like explanation of just sort of the like an apologetic for cinema, like you know, like,
Mhm.
and maybe in some ways it counters maybe some of the first thing we were talking about of, yeah, cinema is sort of bad and we just need to sort of find the good. And I mean, essentially that's what the Pope's saying too, that we need to have good, we need to have beauty. Um, but just his like admiration of like the art form of cinema and like the power of it and the sacred space of the theater. And I don't know, it's just, it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, it's all the stuff that like I believe, but I can't say it to make it sound like that. You know, it's like, yes, that sort of summarizes how I've always felt about this.
Yeah.
I'm just not as articulate as the
Do you
Pope.
think he writes his speeches, or does someone write his speeches for
Oh,
him?
I'm sure he
I wanna believe
it's
that he
collaborative.
does.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh.
I'm gonna give him the credit for it because here there's a couple
Leo.
other. I'll give you two of my quotes, and then we can kind of get into that question that you were
Yes.
asking. And I think there's a couple
Uh-huh.
actually questions related to this, but he says at one point in the speech, he says, "Beauty is not just a means of escape. It is, above all, an invocation," which you mentioned earlier. When cinema is authentic, it does not merely console, but challenges. It articulates the questions that dwell within us and sometimes even provokes tears that we did not know we needed to express, which is just, I think, a great summary of just sort of the power of cinema and just the importance that it's actually edifying beyond just like this escapist, make us feel good. And then kind of the other
Mhm.
quote that stood out to me, which is actually how he ends the whole speech, says, "May your cinema always be a meeting place and a home for those seeking meaning and a language of peace," which is an awesome phrase. "May it
Mhm.
never lose its capacity to amaze and even continue to offer us a glimpse, however small, of the mystery of God." And I mean, that will preach. That will be, I mean, essentially, he's summarizing what we've tried to do here at the Collision is just,
Yeah.
hey, you know, cinema stories, like they do offer a glimpse of God in various ways, and they do challenge us and make us feel things, and just like point us that direction. Obviously, some films and stories like far more profoundly than others, but that you can find sort of the good and true and the beautiful in cinema, and just sort of
Mhm.
that. I don't know. I've always been, you know, I know he's kind of taken that from the Apostle Paul, like sort of the idea of the mystery of God, and I've always loved that for you know, this idea that there is sort of this exciting unknown about God that we can kind of catch glimpses of, but that does sort of transcend our understanding, and like, you know,
Mhm.
that we'll never, at least not until heaven, like be able to get. And you know, just the way that film can just give us those little glimpses. Like it's not really that
Yeah.
the art preaches or that the art's like a full gospel presentation, but it's just like you can get sort of some of those tiny little tastes of sort of the goodness of God. So I think it was, I don't know, I think it was just a really good speech. Kurt, if you haven't seen the speech, or if you just want to, I encourage, and especially anyone that's into film and like loves
Mhm.
film, go read.
The
We'll
Pope.
link it. Like, go read the whole thing, the whole transcript. I think the whole thing is
Mhm.
worth reading. But I do think it is, like you said, and I like it does sort of beg the question a bit of like sort of the role of the church and the arts. Like, I think for a lot of people, like the fact that this even happened was interesting. The fact that the Pope is
Yeah,
like
I was
bringing together all these like
surprised.
Hollywood people. We might mention in a second too. They're not necessarily like, it wasn't like it's just Christian filmmakers, like this
Mm-mm.
Hollywood people, and like that he was giving this speech on film. It's like, I don't know, like I don't know how many people had that on their bingo card for like, oh yeah, today the Pope is speaking about, you know, the power of cinema. But what do you guys think for, what are your initial thoughts on that? Like just kind of the role of the church in film and kind of in relation to perhaps like how the Pope sort of framing it in his speech.
Yeah. I mean, I think the Pope said it best. He said it better than I could.
Are you
I
saying you
guess
can't say it
that's
better than the
that's his job, okay? Um, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I agree. I was talking with Dusty about how, like whenever I hear about a new Christian film or Christian art or media in some way, that I tend to be have a lot more harsher critiques on it. And I used to feel kind of bad about that, just being like, oh, like I need to support Christian artists and Christian art because it is important to have that voice. But recently I've thought, well, obviously don't be mean, but we should also hold Christian art to a higher standard because we haven't given the greatest story ever told, the story of Christ, the story of the gospel, and we're the ones also with the least reason to fear, to fear to create, because God is with us, and he's our creator. He's the ultimate creator as well. So I think that the church needs to hold Christian artists. This might not be the right phrasing, but hold Christian artists accountable to, or maybe push them, challenge them to create good and powerful art, and to question and to probe without obviously not blaspheming or anything, but that we're missing that. We're missing the freedom to challenge and the freedom to question and explore. And that is, I think, essential to good art. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, even just from doing the reviews at the Collision, like there's always like almost every time I review like a faith based like explicitly Christian like film, um, and if I'm negative to it, people don't have a problem if I'm praising it and thinking it's great, but
Mhm.
if I don't, like there's been a couple that I mean, I'd say some of my harshest reviews have been faith based films, and I think it's because of like you said, like, I think for me, it's hey, there's some mindless Hollywood comedy. Like, yeah, like, if I don't like it, like I'll point out why, and I'll walk through that, and I'll try and find the good. But I don't necessarily. The stakes aren't that high. Like hey, it didn't make me laugh. It wasn't a good movie. Maybe go watch something else next time. For like a faith based thing, where it's like exploring more spiritual themes and trying to proclaim the gospel or whatever it is. Like to me, the stakes are this so much higher that it's like, well,
Mhm.
like, this actually represents, not even just the film, but like the quality or lack of quality of the film reflects on God. Like, this is this really a film like worthy of God, or is it like some very, lazy effort to just sort of
Mhm.
slap some, cameras and actors on the screen and, get it out there so that people can be encouraged. Like, I don't know. Like, and I've had people push back on that too, and be like, "Hey, just support Christian art. Like, we need more of these movies." I mean, I'm always like, "Well, do we?" I'm with you as far as like we need more. I would love to have more like faith-based films. I not necessarily agree that like we need more of this type of faith-based film.
Mhm.
I would be totally happy for some of these films to go away and never come back, like, and just have the good stuff, the excellent. And I think that doesn't happen, like you were saying, if we don't push back. I give it if it's like, okay,
Mhm.
as long as it's made for Jesus, it is wonderful. And it's like, well, you know what? Like we don't do that. Like we don't let anyone stand up on stage and sing. Like it's
Mhm.
they might love Jesus, but like if they don't have a tune, like if they can't carry a tune, then like we're gonna put them somewhere else.
Yeah.
There's things that we, like that's a normal part of faith. Like we don't, it's not just about loving Jesus. Like we also see how you're gifted and where you can best serve. And, are you honing your craft? Are you able to sort of strive for excellence, or are you just sort of want to be in front of people because you think that would be fun? And it's like we do that in church every week. Like I think we can do that with films too. I do think the other kind of interesting thing, and then we can move on to the last story,
Mhm.
is I know some of the like pushback or conversation around it, around this whole event from like Christians or conservatives was like sort of like the guest list. Like the people that were there weren't necessarily. I mean, there were some that are like more professing Christians, but there are others that are like, this person's like, for all we know, an atheist, but like they
Mhm.
acted in a movie like 10 years ago that was like Kate Blanchett or some of these people, like there's or Viggo Mortensen from like they were in Lord of the Rings, and like Tolkien that wrote them the books was a Christian, like their spiritual stuff. So they're there, even though they themselves are not necessarily, as far as I know, like professing Christian. Like there are a lot of people like that,
Mhm.
and I know people kind of question that, like, hey, why is the Pope talking to these people and encouraging them? And kind of the interesting takeaway, and it actually leads into our last story. To me, I just like that I feel like the Pope was sort of approaching it the way I try and approach films of like, like find the gospel wherever it is. Like, like it's not just, that only Christians, only watch faith-based movies. Like, no, like I think the gospel, things that are good and true and beautiful all point towards God, however they were
Mhm.
made. And like, like these films, you know, even faith-based films, not everyone involved in the production is Christian. Like, The Chosen, like not everyone behind the camera is necessarily a, born again on fire Christian. Like that's just the nature of film. Like there's
Yeah.
it's a business and there's people doing it and hopefully the people driving the vision are. And I think, in the case of something like The Chosen and Dallas Jenkins, like that is the case. But this idea that unless they're all this uniform, their art cannot glorify God. I don't know. I like that the Pope is sort of like, what, these glimpses just happen and good art will do that intentionally or not intentionally. So I don't know. I like that. Like I said, I encourage you guys to go check out the whole transcript. But speaking of things pointing to the glory of God, or perhaps not pointing to the glory of God. So
What a
this is, yeah,
transition.
I had 2 weeks to hone up my segues. Why don't you set this one up again? Because this
Okay.
is a bizarre. I don't know. This is sort of came out of nowhere. Like it hasn't been a story for very long, but it sort of exploded.
Mhm.
Everyone's talking about it, and that is the one and only hit sensation musician, Christian artist Solomon Ray. So
Mhm.
who is Solomon Ray, and why is everyone talking about
Well, Solomon Ray, my friend, is an AI musician. It's an AI bot who has topped Christian music charts with, was it Holy Silent Night? Was it Silent Night that topped the charts?
it? Yeah, or I don't know if that was the song. I know some of his songs have topped the charts.
Yeah, several of them, okay? Not just one, several of his songs have topped the charts. And there's as said in Daniel's article, there's been a joke in Christian music that it's just a paint by numbers, simple to create, throw in these key ingredients and you'll have a hit, right? But it's an AI. So, my friend, my very close friend Forrest Frank, he of course had something to say and not to, like, I respect the guy. It's great, okay? And he said that AI doesn't have a soul, so it's weird to open up your soul to something that doesn't have one in worship, because it is a form of worship, singing these worship songs. So Topher, who's the creator of Solomon Ray, our AI musician, is a proclaimed Christian, I think, and a conservative commentator. So he is a rapper as well. He does all these different things. And he created Solomon Ray, and he said that who is he to decide what God can use to lead others to him? Which is a good point. And he even had Solomon Ray create a song in response to Forrest Frank's video, which I think is hilarious. It's a Christian diss track, as we were talking about before. This episode, but the lyrics, this is the last thing, and we can talk about it, but the lyrics say, "Now I'm told I have no soul, since I done broken all the rules, my God gets the glory when all creation sings. If rocks can cry out to praise your name, then you can use anything." And this song is called I Got a Song, basically. So, so Daniel, what do you think? What is Christian art? Is it the
Yeah,
content, the creator? What is Christian
yeah,
art?
yeah. This is interesting because I feel like it's such a weird. I mean, obviously, it is like directly. It's relevant just because AI has been such a prominent conversation lately, and this seems to be like the most like on the nose, like obvious. Like, it's one thing to say, "Hey, AI is." In the future, at one point, maybe AI will sort of take over things, and we sort of are fearful of that. It's different when you start seeing like AI topping the charts, and like it's like, oh, like it kind of has taken over. This is like
Yeah.
Christian music now. Like, we're at the point now where it's like, anytime you see like a number one song, it's like, did a human make this or did some bot? And I keep saying again, this is maybe I'm more cynical than I think because this is my second cynical thing of the episode. But like there is a sense that like I feel like so much of sort of the like CCM Christian music is like it's essentially has been like AI generated music since before we had AI. Like the
Mhm.
only thing missing was the fact that like it was actually made by humans. Like so much of it
Yeah.
was just sort of plugging in the cliches and the stereotypes and the templates and that I don't know. To me, the fact that it's so easy to like, it's not surprising that like Christian music's the one that like AI was able to kind of conquest first, and like
Unfortunately.
like I think eventually maybe other genres and stuff will have the same issue, but like the fact that like Christians are the ones that can't tell the difference, or maybe don't care because it all sounds AI. Like one of his songs, and again, I don't know, like maybe I'm just being too grumpy about it, but like it's like "Coffee and Jesus" is the name of the song, and like,
Oh, yes.
come on,
That was
like
the
this is
one.
like I couldn't even get through the first chorus. Like it's the most like
Well,
paint by
Solomon can't
number.
even drink coffee. You
Yeah, I
know?
know. That, and I
Like,
think that's the weird because I think his and like it seems I don't know. Like I don't know this Topher guy. Um, so maybe he's genuine. Like I don't. I'm not saying he's not, but there also seems to be some trolling. Like his Solomon Ray's like hit Christmas CD or album was like a what's it called, like a soulful Christmas, and it's like all the songs like all the reimaginings like it's like jingle soul or like all these things, and it's like how many times you can put soul in, and like obviously it's playing on the fact that it's like soulful music, and like
mhm.
but I think like Forrest Frank points out, like I don't know, there is a sense that like this is sort of this like game. Like I don't know, like and we're all sort of falling into it, and like it's just intentionally trolling, and but I don't know, it's a
Yeah.
weird thing though because I think it does like it's so bizarre that to like imagine having this conversation like 10 years ago. Like it's such a bizarre thing, and even like you said, like with the coffee, like there is such a disconnect between like, okay, this is a guy singing his soul out, is how his soul longs for God and the beauty, and like, and it's like clearly it's not a real person. It's like there's just some weird ickiness to it.
Mhm.
But I do think, I mean, I guess to give both sides their due, like I don't know, like I also I don't think the response, like you know, like who's to say God? Because I know he did the diss track, but then he also before that he had responded like on Instagram or
Mhm.
it was a sort of thing like, hey, who am I to say what God can't and can use to
Yeah.
point people? And it's like I don't know, like that's not nothing. Like I don't know if
Yeah.
I'm not I'm not team Solomon Ray on this
Mm-mm.
conversation, but I don't think it's necessarily as simple of like I think there is stuff to wrestle with as far as like can God use an AI to sing song and like
Well,
I don't know.
yeah.
What do you think? Are you was your soul stirred by this soulless soulful singer?
No. Well, first of all, the videos are so creepy. Like
Yeah.
there's like the one that's linked on our article is him. He just looks like it's an AI, okay? So don't judge me, but he just looks like I can't trust him at all. And there's a shot of him across from a girl who's just going like this and looking at him as he's singing, not even looking at her. And it's just so creepy. It's so creepy.
Well, and it's
But
so obvious too. Like I don't know how
yeah,
anyone. I mean, the music I get is getting. If you don't see the
if you
visuals,
didn't see the video, yeah.
it is definitely more convincing than it's ever been.
It feels lazy though, and I don't think an act of worship should be lazy. I think that's one of the biggest things. You need to actually like put some thought and some heart into it, and by definition Solomon Ray does not have either of those
Yeah,
things.
and here's sort of where I land a little bit. Again, I haven't necessarily thought. I haven't untangled the Solomon Ray thing specifically yet, but to me, art needs like it has to be an intentional act. Like I don't think if I just walk by my desk and bump over my pens and stuff and they fall in some shape, like I don't think that's abstract art. Like that's I dropped it. If I
Mhm.
if I throw a paint randomly over a canvas with intention, then like it's still chaotic and random, but I think it's art. Like that's I'm trying to do some I'm trying to make something. And like I think it has to be done by humans. Like I don't think
Mhm.
any and again we don't have time to get into it. Like I did part of my doctoral dissertation was on can animals make art? Because that's a whole conversation with like elephants painting and I land on the fact that like no they can't, like that's not really
Mhm.
art, that's a trained habit that they're doing, that they do the same painting every time, like, so I think it has to have those two things. And like, the interesting thing is like does Solomon Ray qualify? And it's kind of yes and no. Like in some way, like obviously Solomon Ray doesn't have like I don't think Solomon Ray is an artist because Solomon Ray doesn't exist. But like Topher, like is he like obviously the like the AI didn't it's not making itself. Like there's someone behind it that has an intention to use this tool and make art and make a song, and it's generating it, but there is if you trace it back far enough you get to a human, which is kind of what
Mhm.
Topher's like argument is like yeah, like eventually it's it's almost like a DJ or something, like you're not necessarily making the songs, but if you go back there's someone behind there making the stuff happen, like and like in that sense, like I guess it is art. Like it is like I think you
How
could say
much
it's
did he
bad art.
Yeah, how much
Uh,
did he put into it though? Like, did he just say make a song? Or did he
yeah,
like edit the lyrics? You know, like we don't
and I guess
know
the question
either.
is like how much do you need to? Like I think there's
Yeah.
there's a lot of human made art that we have in Christian art that is like maybe you need to put a little more effort into the lyrics too. Like
Uh-huh.
I mean, like I think like the question of whether it's good art or bad art to me is more clear. It's like yeah, it might
Yeah.
be art. Like it's not good art. It's not thoughtful art. It's not,
Mhm.
excellent art, or I don't necessarily think it's edifying art. But I do like I could be convinced that like it is art. Like it's
Yeah.
not. Solomon Ray is not an artist. Topher's an artist, and he's using AI technology, and it's lazy. It's bad. Like so in some ways it does. I guess the question for me is just like, is God glorified by that though? Like, is God
Mm.
and maybe that's kind of the question he's asking is like, hey, like, what do you do with the people that have been listening to Solomon Ray and like feeling inspired and stuff by the way
Yeah.
he says, like, well, I don't know, like it's hard to dismiss their like,
We need a poll. We need a survey of how many people like was anyone drawn to Jesus by listening to Solomon Ray? I want to know. I need the
yeah,
data.
because that is like, I don't know, that's where it gets more complicated. Of like, I mean, who am I to say that someone, your experience was wrong? It's like
Mhm.
God wasn't speaking to you. It's like, well, I don't know, like I'm not that
Yeah.
person. That's between them and God. I just think if you like, look at scripture, you look at God's character, you look at how God viewed the arts throughout scripture, like in the passages where you can see that. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if an AI sort of semi serious, semi trolling kind of lazy thing, like, I don't know if that's glorifying God or God, like, that God just sort of wants a bunch of computers randomly generating Christian cliches that are about him. And he's gonna be, well, as long as it's all
Yeah.
about me, like it's like I think God is glorified by like humans worshiping God.
And
And
it reminds me of real quick and I'll let you finish. But it reminds me of talking to For King and Country a couple weeks ago. Luke said something about how there's a reason that their albums take so long. Like there's so much time in between each album. He says because they have to live life, a little bit of life in between in order to write these songs. I mean, AI just can't do that, even if Topher's behind it. I mean, I think both Topher and Frank have good points. I think they're both right in their own way. But also, like how much of Topher's life is coming out in Solomon Ray, you know?
and you can see this actually kind of brought to mind, and it doesn't necessarily help solve the question. Like every now and then, like even at our church, like or at churches I've been at, like there'll be people that are really good singers, but like I know, like not only like aren't walking with Jesus, but like closely, but like I don't think even believe in God or it's like they're not Christians. They're just connected to the church somehow, and they can sing, and like they can sing Amazing Grace, and like I don't know, like people that don't know the person, I could see God maybe using that. The words are still powerful. Again, the
Mhm.
words themselves are written in a very worshipful way, but
Yeah.
even just someone singing those songs that's not, it's like, hey, the words. I know the words are true and edifying, but like there's something missing when it's coming from someone that's not themselves,
Mhm.
that doesn't believe it them like there's something empty about it that like I've always felt icky about that, and like I haven't felt edified by, even if the singing is beautiful. It's like, yeah, but it's not coming from the heart. It's not coming from the
They're not
soul.
worshiping.
Yeah,
I
yeah, there's
see.
just that missing quality, and I was sort of thinking about that with this of like, yeah, like maybe all the lyrics that are generated are theologically accurate or like positive, and probably because it's pulling from it's ripping off and plagiarizing a bunch of songs that
Yeah.
were written by people that probably had more that did write it in a spirit of at least trying to be worshipful. Like it's like so you do sort of see some of like I do think maybe some of the humanity comes through just because it's pulling it's not coming out of nowhere, but there's just such an emptiness to it that like I don't know, like I just can't imagine like I can't imagine listening to more than one song, just out of like academic curiosity. Like
Mhm.
I don't know, like just knowing that it's AI to me is like I don't know, that's not to me there's this thing even if it's hard to like say exactly what, like there's something inherently wrong about especially a Christian song. Like I don't know, if it was just like a power metal song and it's like, this is this metal, yeah, they're singing about
Yeah.
dragons and it's AI and like I know it's not real, but it's kind of fun. Like I don't know, maybe I would think a little different, but when it's like songs about Jesus and like worshipful and stuff and it's like I don't know, like I don't need to hear what a computer algorithm thinks about Jesus. Like that's not edifying to me. But I don't know.
Yeah, agreed.
Here's the question: like, how long do you think this like? I don't know. It obviously gets a lot of attention and it snowballs. Like now, everyone's wants to see who this guy is, so he's even getting more airtime. And like, but like, do you think there's actually any staying power in this? Like, to me, I feel like no one's gonna be thinking about Solomon Ray
Yeah.
by March, if not way sooner, or by Christmas. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I feel like it is sort of this like novel. It's sort of like the AI actress we talked about, Tilly. Like everyone talked about it nonstop for like a couple weeks, and then I don't know. We sort of move on, and it's like I feel like there is still enough of a resistance to like it's not satisfying. That
Well,
I don't know. Like
yeah.
do you see it as having like is he gonna like, have a long career?
Well, I think it's going back to a conversation about how, in film, how fads end and popularity ends, and so films like Inside Out 2 that deal with like universal truths and like the human condition as a whole throughout all of history, then those are the things that are gonna. Oh, I have a hole in my shirt. Those are the things that are going to stick around. And Solomon Ray is AI, is not part of humanity. I think
But he is immortal. So
he is
there
immortal,
is a chance that like my
which
great great
means
grandkids gonna be like, have you heard the new album by Solomon Ray? Like he still looks
that's
as young as he
true.
ever has.
But that furthers my point that he's not part of humanity either. Yeah, I don't think it's gonna last honestly through Christmas. I would be
Yeah,
surprised
yeah, and
if there was.
I feel like the reality is Topher is probably just making bank on this guy. Like
Yeah.
I don't think this is purely. I mean, maybe he's giving his money away to charity or something.
Can he copyright it, I guess,
I think
since
so.
it's
Can he not?
AI?
I mean,
I don't know.
someone's buying. I mean, because they're selling the albums.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I think maybe I need to look into that. But like, I'm sure. I don't
That
know.
adds a whole other layer that I didn't even
My
realize
assumption
was
is that I
there.
guess that yeah, like, that there's money to be made, which is probably what would
Is there
drive.
merch?
Uh, are you gonna get me a Solomon Ray like hat for Christmas?
The
Yeah, I don't know.
Christmas
So for me,
party.
I think Solomon Ray as like a person in quotes, I guess. Like I don't see that as necessarily being a long. I think it's sort of this curiosity, this novelty that people think is like, and then people are gonna move on to people that are real and they can actually connect
Mhm.
with. And I think maybe even Topher will move on to some other
Yeah.
kind of gimmick thing. Obviously, I think AI itself is not necessarily going away. I don't know. I'm still kind of, maybe I'm just stuck in my old ways. I'm still skeptical that like, AI will ever have as big of a hold on people as we fear. Like, I think there's always
Yeah.
going to be that ick factor that kind of makes us, I mean, in some ways, the more AI we get, the more coffee and Jesus songs we get, like, the more, in some ways, we're going to like, it's going to drive us to like want to listen to good music, like, and
Well,
want to find humans.
it worries me that it's flooding the market so much that it's going to be hard at some point to find real humans, which may not have much weight. That argument may not have much weight, but I think it's gonna be like
And it just is
just
annoying
left
that you
and
have to
right.
do it. Like, I know even music,
Yeah.
like all of this, if you're like a new metal song come out, and like it's like this sounds a little off. Like, and I'll like try and like Google and see if I can find like band pictures because you just don't know anymore. It's like, oh, this might be AI.
Mhm.
It's close enough now that like you can still sort of, there's enough to be like, I'm not sure about this, but not necessarily enough now to be like, this is clearly AI, and I can tell
Mhm.
the moment the singer starts singing because the auto tune's weird. Like, you can't necessarily tell. So I don't know. I think there's a lot to be had for that conversation. I think it does. Both him and the Pope. Who would have thought? The Pope and then an AI creation, both in the same couple weeks, sparking the question about like what is Christian art,
Yeah.
what isn't Christian art, edifying. So definitely a lot there. But thankfully, something that we know will not be AI generated, so it will be purely human, purely edifying, is the final segment of this podcast episode, which is things we like that you should like too. So this is my week to share something that I like, and I was tempted just to go and just pick Christmas as this general blanket. But I figured, hey, everyone likes Christmas, so I'm not necessarily helping people like new things. So I thought I'd get a bit more specific, and maybe I might need to turn in. This might make you question my masculinity a little bit, but so like I often share my heavy metal music, my hard hitting stuff, and my interests. But something that is maybe outside the box that I do love is I do in fact have a Dickens village. So I know this is not necessarily.
What is
Do
that?
you not know what a Dickens? So this
I
is.
don't.
I mean, typically it's the sort of thing that like middle-aged
I thought
moms
this was
collect.
a place. Okay.
No, so this is, I mean, but this is like little, we'll put a picture of mine in the show
Okay.
notes. This is like little, kind of, like houses and there's little lights under, like sort of you create this little village, there's little figurines and like you sort of
Cute.
you set up your village and like you have snow and fake trees and like all the houses are lit up and I mean, they're expensive to get new. All the stuff I have were gifted or secondhand. And it's all sort of based on like Charles Dickens' world. Like you can get like the stuff from Dickens' books or just like Victorian England. Like it's all, I know they've branched off and now you can get like Harry Potter world. You can get other things too, but like Dickens' village is sort of the classic of some of that. And for those that don't know, like Dickens is my favorite author. Like I've read every single one of his novels. I read Christmas Carol every single year in December. Like I have a Charles Dickens sock and t-shirts.
Interesting
Like I
choice.
love Charles Dickens. I mean, I love Victorian era literature, and Dickens is the best at it. So it speaks to my soul. But there is this thing comforting about this little village. All the little windows are lit up, and like I have it beside my desk. So I work, I look over, I see the peacefulness. So hey, sometimes you just gotta accept that. Turn in your man card a bit and buy yourself a Dickens village and
What
enjoy
a
that. Get new.
quote.
So if you're looking for a present for me, Naya, if you want to, look online, maybe find me some little Dickens figurines.
I'm gonna get you a Solomon Ride keychain. That's
Maybe
what's gonna
maybe we can get a
happen.
little Solomon Ray figurine to add to my
Yeah,
Dickens village. He can be he can be
exactly.
singing the Christmas carols alongside the Dickens people. But whether you celebrate Christmas with a Dickens village or some AI Christmas music or however else you choose to celebrate, we are excited for the next couple of weeks. We'll kind of update you as far as obviously we'll be back next week and then maybe the week after that, but we'll take some time off over the Christmas break to enjoy the holidays. For sure, we will be back next week with some more interesting. Never know what you'll find in culture. So I'm excited for it. I'm excited to talk about it with you again next week, Naya. And we hope all you guys will join us again every Thursday for more conversations on faith and pop culture.